slide share. I do not know whether my slides will move or not, so I'm keeping it like this. So choosing an IL for small eyes or pediatric eyes, which we are actually tender eyes, is it as easy as a child's play? No. Why is it so? Although the
slide show mode full
इससे हो नहीं रहा था ना, last time it was not moving, that's why I'm not taking it there.
एक बार करके मैम सेंटर में क्लिक कर दीजिएगा.
अभी ठीक है? Is it there? Are my slides changing?
हाँ जी मैम.
Okay. So obviously, as we know, the power calculation in a child is not as easy as a child's play. There have been dramatic advances and revolution in the field of biometry in adult cataract surgery, but the field of pediatric cataract surgery is still lagging behind. And why? Why is it so? Because in a child, we are choosing an optimal IL power for a child eye, which is best befitting that small eye. We are implanting a fixed power lens into the eye that is still growing. The younger the child, more is the problem. And also remember, we are using formulas that have been originally designed for adult eyes. So what are the concerns which we face? There are the measurement issues, there are IL power calculation issues, there are issue of target refraction, there are different types of IOL issues, what materials of IOLs to be used, and besides the long-term issue of the myopic shift and the visual axis opacification. As we all know, the normal axial length of the eye around birth is 17 millimeters, with the maximum rapid growth occurring during the first 3 months, and then a slow growth after till 15 years. Similarly, keratometry at birth is around 51 diopters, and there's a dramatic change in the corneal curvature in the first 18 months of life. And similarly, in the lens power of the crystalline lens, there's a dramatic fall in the first year by 10 diopters. So if you look at the various studies, the maximum amount of myopia is occurring in the first 2 to 3 years of life. And what are the factors which affect this myopia shift? Is not only the eye growth of that particular child, but also the laterality of the cataract, whether what is the age at which surgery has been done in the child, whether an IOL was implanted or not, what are the genetics, as in what is parents myopic, and what is the visual input which is being given or timely refractive corrections being given to the child with his growing parameters. In a pediatric age group, obviously what is happening in these cases, obviously they have different parameters, which means they have more steeper corneas with a higher keratometric readings and a smaller AC depth. So the standard IOL power formulas are inadequate. Because when we're doing measurements in ultrasonic modes, then the ultrasonic velocity is different because of these parameters. And secondly, they are changing parameters since it's a growing eye. What is the difficulties which fail doing measurement?
Slide नहीं हो रहा है.
मैं इसीलिए बोल रही थी ना, I'll go in the
center में एक बार click कर दीजिए मैम.
I'll go with this mode only. We do not have time. Okay. So we have the measurement issues, which is obviously difficulty in doing measurements in the office settings. Most of the patients are required to be, and most of the measurements need to be done under anesthesia. When we are using under anesthesia, we're using handheld refractometers, and we are using ultrasonic machines. So obviously there are more errors in measurement. And even in the ultrasonic mode, we are more likely using a contact mode of ultrasound measurements. So more effects of compression, lower the ocular rigidity, greater is the compression, smaller is the eye, therefore there is more impact of compression. What are the issues with the handheld keratometers? Obviously, their accuracy is less as compared to the stationary keratometers, the automatic keratometers, which are as kept in the OPDs. And secondly is the lack of fixation and anesthesia, leading to inaccurate K readings. As regards to measurements of the axial length in children, again, we are using more commonly ultrasonic methods, again using under general anesthesia. So obviously, whatever modality which you are using, whether immersion or appurnation, we are not perpendicular exactly to the retina. Although if you have to use out of the blue, immersion scan is the one which is the recommended scan. The best is to measure in an aphakic mode in these cases and use the CAF method to do the IOL power calculations. Why do we need to do this? This is because, remember, in small eyes, the lens is a greater proportion of the axial length, hence the average velocity of the ultrasonic waves is faster. Optical biometry, as in adults' eyes, would be obviously more reliable and accurate, highly reproducible, non-contact and observer independent, but right now we have limitation in the resources of handheld optical biometers. Then what are the IOL power formula issues? Remember, all these power formulas which are used for calculation are derived from the adult data. Also, in the children, the calculation of the power is such that we have a high power of the IL which is required to be implanted. So higher the power, more exact axial positioning of the IL is required. And these pediatric eyes have less predictable IL positioning because of the shallower AC depths, greater vitreous pressures, steeper corneas, and also because of the higher chances of capsular contraction syndromes. Whichever formulas which we use, all of them give unpredictable outcomes, and there's a very little difference between any of these formulas. And the variability is more if the age of the child is less than 2 years. As for an adult eye, obviously I will desire that I will be able to hit the target. But what should I do to do that? So I have to do certain undercorrections. So the goal is undercorrect. In general, higher the IL power, greater would be the undercorrection which is required. Bilateral the cataract, greater is the hyperopia I would aim at. But if it is a unilateral cataract, lesser would be the hyperopia I would aim at, because I do not want to induce anisometropia and cause anisometropic amblyopia. If the normal eye has a significant refractive error, then I will aim to choose closer to the refraction of the opposite eye. But if there is a dense amblyopia, I will aim for a lesser hypermetropia. If there's a poor compliance regarding follow-up and use of spectacles and post-operative corrections, then again, I would like to leave the child with the least possible refractive error. For unilateral cataracts between the age of 2 to 4 years, a general formula which we can use is calculate according to the spherical equivalent of the fellow eye minus 1.25 diopters. But if the age is more than 4 years, we need not undercorrect and give it is equivalent to the spherical equivalent of the fellow eye. While for infants less than 6 months, aim for a moderate hyperopia of about almost 3 to 7 diopters. While between 6 to 12 months, we can aim for a hyperopia of roughly around less than 3 diopters. There are various IL calculators also available again on the site of ACRS as well as APOS sites, which can be used for doing these calculations and predicting the future growth to predict the IL power calculations. In general, I use these calculations in my practice for the correction. There may be situations when we are dealing with IL power calculations in a child who has had a surgery during infancy and the IL was not implanted. So in such situations, it is important to do calculations as a secondary IL implantation. Remember, if the child has been using contact lenses, so the contact lenses need to be discontinued before any measurements are done. We can calculate using aphakic refractions without the AL or the K values by using pediatric IL calculators for this. Also, we should remember which place we are implanting the secondary IL, whether it is in the bag, in the sulcus, or in the anterior chamber, because a more plus power IL that is more anteriorly placed will have a greater refractive effect than if it was placed more posteriorly. So the intraocular position will depend upon, and the prediction error will depend upon the position of the secondary IL being placed in the eye, the sulcus eye fixation producing a relatively myopic shift. And then we have the concept of piggyback ILs, which Justine has already touched upon. We can have a primary piggybacking in the children where we do calculations using a pediatric piggyback IL calculator, where one lens is placed in the posterior chamber, or we can place 2 ILs in the posterior chamber, one in the capsular bag and one in the sulcus. Or we have a secondary piggybacking where we can use these correction formulas depending upon what is the refractive aphakic correction, existing refraction, whether it is myopic or hyperopic for secondary IL piggyback calculations. In the end, I would just like to summarize that it is important that you should customize your calculations for each case depending on the age, laterality of the cataract, what is the visual acuity and myopic status of the child, what is his likely compliance in the post-operative period as regard to glasses, contact lenses, and occlusion treatment, whether there is any family history of significant refractive errors, and where has the IL been placed in the eye. Remember, these are not miniature eyes, but growing eyes, again requiring extra diligence, and careful consideration should be given to the changing parameters, and this can make a big difference to your outcomes.